Welcome everyone to the 2019 Audi A6. For this model year, the mid-size executive sedan enters its 5th generation, basing itself on an all-new platform, debuting some technology that we've only seen so far in Audi's flagship vehicles. With this car that you see here in front of me, the exterior design is very much an evolution rather than a revolution. That's largely just how Audi likes to do things. But with this car, the main focus point and how this Audi represents itself is with the interior, largely focusing on the new MMI touch response system. This is such a complex system that I'm going to do my own separate video just talking about the infotainment system. So if you want to see a video on that, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell, as I'll hopefully be posting that video by the end of this week. But when it comes to other elements of this Audi, I'm very interested to see what is it like to drive. And with this car, it has been lent out to me for a couple days by Glenmore Audi. If you want to check out this exact vehicle or any of the other vehicles that are in Audi's lineup, be sure to check them out. So we're going to break down the Audi A6 and learn everything that I can about it. And then at the end of the video, I'll place it in my ranking system to determine where it lies against other mid-size executive sedans. So without further ado, let's go for a drive. The new Audi A6 is marginally larger than the car it replaces. It's 0.3 inches longer, 0.5 inches wider, and 0.1 inches taller. Very, very small changes. But that leads to a more substantial cabin, a little more space in the rear as well. And currently there is only one powertrain configuration with the A6. There's a turbocharged 3-litre V6 engine that produces 335 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. That turbo lives within the V of the engine. Some would call it a hot V, some would call it in the valley, however you choose to describe it. What this does is make the turbocharger more efficient, as there's less mechanical components to actually pipe the exhaust gases to it, increasing its response and reducing turbo lag. One thing I simply don't understand with all these new Audis coming out is their naming strategy for, well, I don't really know what it's for. Here, this car is a 55 TFSI. Now, the TFSI, that refers to the gasoline motor, of course, but 55? What does that mean? What does that relate to? It doesn't relate to power. There are no other engines available, so is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. I think it's dumb. They did perfectly well without it for many, many years. I don't know why they're deciding they now need to implement and make the names of these cars longer. With this vehicle, it also has Audi's Quattro System with ultra technology, and what that's capable of doing is actually disengaging the rear axle if there's situations where that additional power doesn't need to be sent to the rear wheels. And then a technology that's finding itself in quite a few Volkswagen Group products is the 48-volt system. Here we have the starter motor that doubles as a generator that's capable of sending energy to a lithium-ion battery pack, and this battery pack is able to power the car's infotainment system, the safety systems, if your car is selected with it, the air suspension. You can raise or lower the air suspension independently, but it all largely depends on what speed you're traveling at. Whenever you're coasting between speeds of 55 kilometers an hour and 160 kilometers an hour, if the conditions dictate, you can actually disengage the engine if you're coasting or sailing and using electrical power only. And additionally, this generator and starter motor makes the automatic stop-start technology totally seamless. You can call this a mild hybrid system, and it does produce a little more efficiency within this whole vehicle, but it doesn't do anything to create more power or torque and sending it to the wheels. Perhaps something to add into the styling and other things to note with the powertrain is that this is continuing the trend of fake exhausts on Audi products. I have no idea why they're doing this. I really wish they would stop. There's currently no word regarding the 2-litre engine that was previously available on that A6. Currently, there's only one powertrain configuration, and it's exactly what I've described to you. Now, we've spoken about a lot already, and we've barely gotten off of the powertrain. This is how much technology is stacked into this vehicle. So let's very swiftly move into how this car drives. Audi's in their sort of main series of vehicles, the A-line vehicles, don't really produce many cars that are joyful to drive, not very engaging in the dynamics, and it rings true here with this vehicle. It's incredibly comfortable and quiet. The steering is light and the dual clutch transmission is so silky smooth. But there really isn't much to bring involvement to the driver if you ever want to throw this car up a mountain road. You do have the drive select and you can change around the air suspension in dynamic mode. The car actually gets lower, but quite frankly, when I want to drive this vehicle, it's on a long highway cruise. An hour's long drive in this car goes like that. This thing is so easy to drive. You've got all of the safety tech, these beautiful graphics on the screen. I'll get to that later, but there's so much sound deadening material on here. It's quieter than even some electric cars that I've driven. And with the seats in this car that I'm in, they're heated, cooled, and massaging. So on a long cruise, tall drivers such as myself have a little bit of leg support down here, get a shoulder massage. Easiest drive of your life will probably be a long stint in a vehicle like this. And I'm in the Technik model. For Canada, the Progressive is the entry-level version, and for the Technik, it's the one step up. But the vehicle you're looking at is packed with practically every option that you can include in this vehicle. So standard pieces of kit that you'll get in the Progressive model are the 2 touch screens. You'll have heated front and rear seats, and then some of Audi's safety tech equipment. But when you go up to the Technik, that's when you're granted the virtual cockpit, heated and ventilated front seats, matrix LED lights that have the animations when you turn the car on and off, and here's a couple shots of it at night so you can see it a little more clearly, and the self-closing doors. And I have a little bit of an issue when it comes to the self-closing doors. They have this feature that perhaps I'm just not used to, as I haven't encountered many vehicles with self-closing doors, but it annoys me. Anyways, anytime that I want to open the door, the self-closing mechanism actually pops the door out slightly to make it easier and less forceful to opening up a door, so the driver or passengers doesn't need to exert as much energy. But it always feels like when you do this, it's getting caught on something, and that's that mechanism helping pop the door out. Perhaps it's something I just need to get used to again, but I don't like that additional motion, that other mechanical piece of interference. Touching on the exterior looks, this is the murdered out A6 with the S-line trim package with the black optics pack, so that's the trim around the grille and around the door sills, and then of course the black wheels. Not to my taste, but a very aggressive looking vehicle nonetheless. Another piece of technology that you can find in this A6 is 4-wheel steering. When you're turning at low speeds such as this, that rear wheels turn in the opposite direction, up to 5 degrees. And when you're driving at highway speeds, for example, the wheels in the rear turn in the same direction as the ones on the front. And if you're ever taking a long sweeping corner on a highway, it feels just so stable and planted. So with that, the A6 is a very easy car to park. Added in with the 360-degree cameras that you can get in the Technik, and the way that you can manipulate this image to see other areas of the car or have direct focus points on, like, say, the rear wheels so you don't curb them. It's utterly magnificent, and the cameras are such high resolution too. Absolutely beautiful. This is probably the thing that Audi does best, just the sharpest, crispest displays. And now that I've said that word, it's now time to talk about Audi's latest MMI. They call it MMI with touch response, and we have a 10.1-inch touchscreen up on the top and then an 8.6 below. The 8.6 is largely responsible for your climate control system and a few other things that you can manipulate here on the top. You've got the heated and ventilated seat settings down here. And then on the top is pertaining to everything that you'll do when it comes to adjusting the car's settings, your phone, your music. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. When you're using this system, its default setting is using haptic feedback to know that you've clicked something, and you don't tap on something for it to work. You need to push down and hard into it. But when you go into Apple CarPlay, for example, you tap it just like you would on any other smartphone. There is a setting where you can have the entire vehicle go like that if you don't like haptic feedback and you don't want to press your fingers into the screen. But personally, I really quite like the way this is set up. Audi's virtual cockpit, we've seen it in a fair few of their vehicles already, but with the actual application of this, living in a mountain town and you have the Google Maps setting in 3D, I'm at a loss for words trying to describe what it's like seeing the animations of my town and all the main roads, but when you zoom out, you can see the mountain ranges and you can kind of pivot around as you turn each corner to see your relationship between them whilst looking out of the windows to see them in their full beauty. It's absolutely stellar. Now, like I said, I am going to do a full in-depth and independent video on the MMI system because there's so much to touch upon with all of the things that you can change with ambient lighting, the drive modes, the safety systems, and things that you can do with even the rear seats. Be sure to check out that video when it goes live. Then moving away from the screens and touching about other parts of the interior, and quite frankly, these are a dominant factor of them. All the buttons are crisp and really tactile. We have this open pore wood here on the door cards, on the center console, and here on the dashboard. Lots of leather up here on top of the door cards and all the way along the dashboard here. Look how beautiful that stitching is, that's great. Perhaps an odd detail is just how the vents are designed. Just with this space here, this flat plastic, maybe that could have been something else, maybe, I don't know, more wood. I don't know, I'm not a car designer. There's a couple of hard touch plastics here at the very base of the door cards and two little pieces that are behind the steering wheel, but beyond that I really can't find much else. There's padding up here along the center tunnel so you can rest your legs up besides, and the optional Bang & Olufsen sound system here has the tweeters that rise every time you start the car. There's a little bit of Alcantara inserts here. The armrest that you have, there really isn't much storage space in here, barely for a phone and wallet. Here in the door cards as well, there just isn't really much space. And then rounding up this review, talking about the rear seats, you have an independent climate control system down there that's touchscreen, and for all Audi A6 models, this vehicle comes with heated front and rear seats. If you're above 6 foot, you might struggle a bit in there, and I'm 6'4", so if I want to have good posture, my head is hitting the ceiling. If I slouch forward a little bit, I'm perfectly happy elsewhere. Good amount of knee room, a little bit of leg room. Definitely couldn't fit 3 people abreast for that massive center tunnel that you have for the drivetrain. But the trunk is huge. You can split the seats 3 ways. The Audi A6 is a very compelling package, and it's best aligned to the customer that's perhaps looking for the latest and greatest technology that they can find in a cabin. All around the interior is a beautiful hush space with an incredibly refined driving experience. Yes, it's not all that involved if you want to do enthusiastic driving, but that's really not what this Audi is meant to be. Because of this, I think the A6 is something that you should seriously consider owning if you're looking in this price range and bracket for mid-size executive sedans. So that's been everything for me. Thank you so much for taking the time to checking out this video, and many thanks again have to go out to Glenmore Audi that lent this A6 out to me for a few days. All of their information is in the description down below, and if you want to head down to the dealership and check out this exact model, it is there available for a test drive. Thanks again for watching. Like the video if you liked it, share it if you think other people will like it too, and if you want to hit that subscribe button just down below, that does the world for me. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you soon.